If you guys are newer to my channel, you probably see me as a Halloween fan. You probably have put me in that box of a Halloween guy. And I love that series. But today I want to talk to you guys about what I feel like is the most underrated horror franchise, bar none. And that is Hellraiser. Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Hellraiser, one of my favorite horror franchises, and one that I feel like does not get talked about enough. And I know there are a plethora of reasons as to why, and I don't even dispute a lot of them. However, I don't think the bad outweighs the good in this series, because I would say the highs of Hellraiser are some of the highest in the horror genre. Now that's just my opinion, of course, but I want to break this down for you as to why I think this series is so damn underrated. Look, in its original inception from creator Clive Barker, Hellraiser was something that was entirely different than anything we had seen up to that point. It's this dark, gritty, gross exploration of like pain and pleasure and sex, and it's just wild. To put that all together in a story and then put that story onto screen is quite wild. I watched this movie for the first time when I was a kid, and I remember being so confused. I don't even think I was enthralled. If anything, I think I was scared of Pinhead. I was like, yeah, hell no, I don't want anything to do with that guy. And as the years would go on, I would go back and revisit some of these movies, and my love would just grow for it. The first thing that works about this franchise so well is, of course, the casting of Doug Bradley as Pinhead. It is an all-time casting decision. I genuinely don't know, aside from Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, if I could find a more iconic horror villain. Like, that's just who it is for me. It's Robert, and then it's Doug Bradley as Pinhead. And I should specify that I'm specifically meaning the portrayal, because I think Doug Bradley eats it up here. Look, the design is great. Even in the later movies, as it gets a little wonky sometimes, it's still pretty damn good. But Doug Bradley brings this like refined sense of menace to him. He's so classy and cordial, yet evil, and I find that terrifying. Because yes, he's here to take you to the depths and torture you for eternity, but he's going to be polite about it. He's going to try to sell you a dream that, oh, you're going to love this. It's going to be great. It's maniacal. It's menacing. It's literally everything. Doug Bradley is the guy. After Robert Englund, the next thing that works so well with Hellraiser is the casting of Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty Cotton. She's fantastic in the first two movies, and she does return in Hellraiser Hellseeker, and though I find that movie to be absolutely awful, and she only gets really a cameo in it, she's good in that movie too. She's the saving grace of that film. Look, Ashley really comes into her own in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, which is my favorite Hellraiser film. But she's still good in the first one. We can look back at some of our final girls over the decades and say they really grew into the role. They weren't that great when they started. Think no further than Heather Langenkamp in A Nightmare on Elm Street. You may love her in Dream Warriors, and specifically love her in New Nightmare. But in the original, she's not great. I'm happy to say that that's not the case with Ashley Lawrence. She's good in the first one. She doesn't get as much to do as she does in the second one, but she's still good. But Hellbound is where she really shines, and I think she's one of the most underrated final girls in horror as well. Simply just for Hellbound. She's that damn good in that movie, and that movie is that damn good. And then piggybacking off of that, to introduce this story like they did with the original Hellraiser and have it come across as well as it did, they doubled down with Hellbound. Hellbound is so Lovecraftian. It is so much bigger than the first movie. See, I always thought with the first movie they wanted to do more, but there was only so much they could realize on screen with the budget they had. Once that movie was a hit, they were able to realize some of that more in Hellbound, and oh my god, it is incredible. It deepens the lore. It gives more for the characters to do. It introduces new characters, and we get to see a human transform into a Cenobite. And listen, Dr. Channard is deliciously over the top. He fits the movie he's in. I've heard people complain over the years that they think it's a little too zany, a little too wild. Absolutely not. I love Channard in this movie, and I love the idea in and of itself. To see that play out on screen the way we did. This movie has a lot of imagery like that will stick with you. Some of it is cartoonish, and that's intentional, and then some of it is just genuinely terrifying. Seeing what's supposed to be Kirsty's dad's skinned body, writing in blood on the wall, "I am in hell, help me." That is incredible. That was nightmare fuel for me as a kid. Not to mention the mentally ill man that is on the mattress slicing himself to death. Even watching that today, as an almost 31-year-old, it still makes me squirm. It's still uncomfortable. So Hellraiser, with its first two movies, was off to an incredible start. They knew they had a hit on their hands, and they wanted to strike while the iron was hot. Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth is much more of a slasher movie, and I really dig the movie, but I can't deny it is vastly different in tone from the first two movies. But it is a fun watch, and this was the first time we actually got to see Pinhead kind of take front and center as like a slasher villain. Sure, he's not walking around with a knife, but he feels much more like a slasher in this movie. And the stigmata scene is one of the most iconic moments in this entire franchise. And then you get Hellraiser Bloodline. Now, that was a troubled production, and that was really when we were starting to see the gas run out, and surprisingly so, because the first three movies had been pretty well received, at least financially. But Bloodline was where it all kind of ended. Between the budgetary limitations, the director issues behind the scenes and replacing the director, the rewrites, Bloodline was just kind of a mess. So the fact that the movie actually came out to be a pretty damn good movie, at least in my opinion, is a testament to how strong the source material is. Bloodline is only really weak in the space stuff. I will argue that the present day and the period piece stuff are great. It's the space stuff that's really like, you didn't really have the budget or the time or really the thought process to flesh this out, so let's just kind of ignore that. But I would say that's not even a third of the movie. Bloodline's a solid movie, but it began the descent of the franchise, and that's when you would start to see direct-to-video sequel after direct-to-video sequel to varying levels of success. Now, I say that because I don't know if success is a word I would use for any of them. Look, there's a lot of people that will defend Hellraiser Inferno because of Scott Derrickson, largely, but I just can't get behind that movie. You can tell that was not a Hellraiser movie, and they forced Pinhead in at the end. It just doesn't feel like it belongs, and I find it largely boring. Hellseeker, the sixth film, we're not even going to talk about it. It tries to be a lot like Inferno in plot, like scarily similar. But then it adds Ashley Lawrence at the end as basically a glorified cameo because they couldn't figure out how to get in touch with her and they were about to just start shooting the movie without her. Just a mess behind the scenes there. And it's a bad movie. I genuinely hate that film. Then you get to Deader. And Deader is another one that was not a Hellraiser script. It was just a script called Deader that Dimension Films had purchased. And they eventually put Hellraiser into it. And I think Deader is probably the strongest of the direct-to-video era for Hellraiser. I think it's actually a really intriguing mystery story, and I actually don't think the shoehorning in of Pinhead at the end here is as forced as it is in Inferno. It's still not great, and it's the weakest part of the movie, and the movie as a whole is just fine. But I think compared to Inferno and Hellseeker, I was like, okay, maybe we have something here. Then you'd get Hellworld. Now, Deader and Hellworld were filmed back to back, but they released a couple years apart. And Hellworld, for me, is just a really dumb fun time. It very much feels like a late 90s, early 2000s slasher movie. And this is the movie where Pinhead feels the most like a slasher. Now, I have to be honest here and just be fair. It completely disrespects the character of Pinhead and the Cenobites largely. But it's so dumb that it's fun. But I'll never forgive them for having Doug Bradley's last line on film as Pinhead be this.
How's that for a wake-up call?
Then you would get Hellraiser Revelations, and we won't talk about that movie because it is absolutely awful and it was literally just a cash grab to try to keep the rights. That's it. It's a terrible movie. I cannot recommend you staying away from that strongly enough. It's god-awful. Judgment was okay. It had good ideas, but it didn't have the budget. It didn't have Doug Bradley. And overall, it felt like a movie that was just too little too late. I think the damage had been done with Hellraiser at that point. I don't fault Gary Tunnicliffe at all. I think there's great ideas in that movie, and had it come out 10 years earlier, we might be in a different position with Hellraiser right now. So then the reboot is announced, and it comes out straight to Hulu. And guess what? It's a streaming hit. It gets great reviews, and most of the fans are at least moderately satisfied with it, but most really enjoying it, like myself. And here we are 3 years after that came out, and there's no news about the future of this series. And I'm dumbfounded. I'm bewildered. I'm upset. Look, I know nobody from 20th Century or that was involved with Hellraiser 2022 is going to watch this, but guys, do you have any idea what you're sitting on? The point of this video was for me to talk about what made Hellraiser so good in the first place, and how even after all of the shit that we had to shovel through between the 90s and 2010s, we got a reboot that got a big budget, got great reviews, made the fans happy, and was a hit on streaming. Why is that? Because this source material is limitless. It is so rich. There is so much lore. There's so much you can play off of in mythology, Lovecraftian themes and imagery. There is so much here. There are so many metaphors that you can use this source material for, whether that be addiction to drugs, sex, alcohol. It is so rich, and it was kind of vindicating to me in 2022 when that movie came out and people were like, holy crap, this is good, this looks good, like the performances are good, it's a good movie. Because I had always maintained, yeah, this is a good franchise. It's a good franchise because the creator, Clive Barker, had an idea that in its inception was gold. It was a gold mine that you could spin into movie after movie after movie and expand upon. You could create so much out of this world, and they just didn't. They squandered it for years and years. And then when they finally had a good thing again, after so much damage to their reputation, they're squandering it right now. They're sitting on that. Can you imagine recasting Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger and most of the fans going, I like the recast. You know, maybe he had some issues with the movie, but you go, you know, I liked the recast. This person did a really good job. And Jamie Clayton did do a really good job. She was phenomenal as Pinhead in this movie, as the priest, the priestess, whatever you want to call it. Like, most of the fans agreed. I like that portrayal by her. So what are we doing? Like, you did it. You successfully rebooted this thing. Why did you stop? Why didn't it go to theaters? What the hell are we doing here? This movie needs a sequel. We need to build off of this. This franchise needs to get the love that it has deserved for so long because it is so good. And so many people look back on Hellraiser and only think about movies like Inferno and Hellseeker and Hellworld. They don't think about movies like Hellbound and Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2022 and even Judgment, damn it. Like, they don't give this thing the credit it deserves. And it blows my mind and it upsets me because look, I love Halloween. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love so many of these franchises, but absolutely none of them are brimming with the kind of potential that Hellraiser is. Because, again, it's boundless. You can do anything. You can go anywhere. You can create any mythology. Anything. You're not constrained to any real-world things. What are we doing? Look, if you're new to my channel and you just found me from this video, you learned some things today. That when I'm really passionate about something, I will ramble about it. But here's the thing, I'm authentic. This is coming from a place of love. This is coming from a knowledgeable place. I'm not just saying stuff to say it. When it comes to Hellraiser, I know what I'm talking about. I feel very strongly about this. And I know that what they're sitting on is something that could be huge. And at one point was huge. And if they hadn't shot themselves in the foot year after year after year, we wouldn't be where we are here today. Look, I love this series. I will always maintain that it is the most underrated horror franchise. Because again, people think back to the bad era, not the golden era. We recaptured part of that golden era just 3 years ago, and they haven't done anything with it. And I don't know why. But I want to know down below what you guys think. Even if you don't think it's the most underrated, do you agree that Hellraiser is an underrated franchise? And would you like to see more from this series? Or are you someone that's like, I don't like Hellraiser, I've never liked it, you have no idea what you're talking about, shut up, you talk really fast, and you annoy me. Whatever it is, comment down below in the comment section and let me know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.